Hello folks, as I told you last week in my video, this week's video would be in my broom shop making a broom. So today we are in the broom shop and we're going to be making a broom, and I'll explain what kind of broom that will be and all about it in just a minute. But first of all, I wanted to show you some of the brooms that I have on hand that I've already made. So just take a quick look at those and then I'll be back shortly to get started on the broom for this week's project. To make this whisk broom, we need about a handful of broom straw or hurl. I measured it out just what I could hold in one hand, and that should be about enough. We do not need to soak this because we're not going to be bending the straw in making this broom, but sometimes you have to soak it because if you have to bend it, it wouldn't bend if you didn't soak it in water. But to make the handle of the broom, we're going to be making it out of the stem from a piece of broom straw. So this is a piece of broom straw, and these are some stems that have already been soaked and cut in half. These are some that have to be soaked and they haven't been cut in half yet, but I'm actually going to soak all of them because even the ones that are cut in half need to be pliable enough that I can bend it to be able to make the top of it. And this is a close-up of what the top looks like, so we have to just bend it as we're putting the string on it. So we'll kind of explore that as we get to that part of it. Okay folks, it's time to get started making this whisk broom. This is a broom winder. It has our string on it that we're going to tie the broom with. It stays on the floor, and as I need string, I'll wind it around and pull some off. I have about a handful of hurl here, and that's enough to make a small whisk broom like we're going to make. I'm going to tie this knot up near the brushy end of the broom, and we'll start working down toward the handle. I'm going to tuck the short end where I tied the knot down into the hurl, and that way it will stay kind of tight while I twist this around so it doesn't come loose. Now that I have this wound around a couple of times, I'm going to start pulling it so that I can get it tight, and we'll tie a tight knot around so that we can move on with getting our broom straw tightened up enough so we can start making our broom with it. I need to let off a little more string. Now that I have this string wound around the broom corn a few times, I'm going to cut off this short tail that we had because it would just be in the way now. I'm going to start V'ing off now and moving on up toward the handle. Up in here is where we will put our cut off pieces of broom straw that came off the ends that we did cut off later, and we soaked them in water, and we'll braid them so that it has a nice decorative effect. I'm going to move on up maybe about 4 or 5 inches, and that way all of this will be covered up with the ends of the broom straw that we're going to be braiding with. Okay, I think that's about high enough, and so I'm now going to do another spiral like I did here up at the top. To do that and be able to knot this so that it won't pull back out, we're going to use something called a jerk string. And what we do with the jerk string is we stick it in under our twine here. And as soon as we've twisted the string around and made a spiral like this, then we will put the cut end of it in here and we'll pull it back through so that it's nice and tight and won't come loose. We have to keep pulling it tight as we're moving on up the handle. The noise that you hear is the spindle as I'm getting string off of it on the floor. Okay, we're back around to the back where we started on the bottom wrap here. And so I'm going to cut the string and I'm holding it tight with my thumb so it won't come loose. And I'm putting the end into this end of this jerk string. Now I'm going to turn it around so I can pull this with my right hand. It's pretty hard to pull. You have to pull really hard to get it through there. Okay, success. Got it pulled through. Now you can see it's nice and tight and it just won't come loose. So we'll cut this off to make it a little tidier. Okay, with a little trimming, we have a whisk broom. You could leave it just like this. A lot of people do. They'll trim the top so it's even. They'll maybe trim the bottom a little bit and just have a little round whisk broom. But we're going to go a couple of steps further on this. We're going to braid up here with the stems that we cut off of the broom straw. Then we'll tidy this up with a nice cut. And down here, we're going to flatten this out And this is the tool that you put on it and flatten it out. And after we flatten it out, we're going to sew it so that it will fan out a little bit and make a little bit better whisk broom. Whisk brooms like this are very handy. You can use them most any place. I use mine to tidy up the kitchen sometimes if I have maybe crumbs on the table or on the counter, and you can whisk them right off. Very, very handy. Okay, our next step is to tie a knot back in our string and put it around our handle. And then we're going to start taking the pieces of broom straw that we cut off, and we're going to braid those. I've had them in that red towel that was over on the table because I soaked them in water so that they're more pliable and they'll bend and they won't break. I have to get another knot up here so we can have a starting place. I'm going to leave some of the black braid showing just as a little decorative accent. I'm going to take a piece of the broom straw that I cut off, and I've soaked it in water so it is a little more pliable and hopefully it won't break. And I'm going to start here. And I'll keep adding pieces until I have this all covered. We need to have an odd number of pieces. It won't braid right if we have an even number, so we'll just count them as we go. I wound up with 9 pieces, so I'm gonna just braid, or I'm gonna just tie the string around the 9 pieces about 3 times so that I hold them in nice and tight before we start the braid. The next thing we want to do is bend each of them down. Now that we have all 9 of our pieces of broom straw bent down, we're going to start the braid. I'm going to go over one and under one. It's really a basket weave braid. It's a very simple braid, and it is pretty. So we're going to go over the first one and under the next one, and over the next one and under the next one. Repeat, repeat, repeat. want to continue to keep it tight as we're going around so it will hold onto the broom and won't come loose later. As you can see, we're starting to form a pattern, and we'll continue to work on down until we get close to the braid that's on the where we tie it around to make a braid on the bottom. So a little bit of that will show. We have just a little bit showing around the top, just a little black line. So we have gotten to the end of the braiding on the broom, and I've tied it off using the jerk string, just as I did above in this area that you really can't see now because the broom straw ends that we braided with are now over that tie. But it's tied off here, and we're now ready to sew the broom so that we can keep it fanned out a little bit on the end. I've put the device on the spreader that actually will hold the broom so that I can sew it. I have a piece of string here that's maybe about 2.5 yards long. Should be enough to sew this small broom. And I have put beeswax on it. This is a piece of beeswax. I have run the string through that. It makes it stay a little better on the broom and not slide up and down. So to start with, we're going to start with the, we're going to start with the front of the broom here. And we're going to run this is a broom sewing needle. It's called a bodkin, and I've put my string through it. So we're going to run our string through the broom, and it has a knot in the end of it. So the knot is here, and we're going to pull it on through a little bit. And then we're going to wind this string a couple of times around the broom so that we can secure the knot. It won't come back out. I have the tail of the knot here. I'm just going to wind over it. And pull it sort of tight. I'm going to do it 3 times. Now, my string that I'll be sewing with is in the back of the broom. So I'm going to bring it up through the broom. Just over near the edge. And I'm going to pull it tight so that it will stay and hopefully won't slide down the broom. I'm going to go back through the broom. Coming back out on the top side of the string on the other side where other side opposite from where I went through it. Now I'm just going to simply go back through the broom again and come back out on the top side of the back of the broom. I have these, I guess approximately about 1/4 of an inch apart. You can make them a little wider or a little narrower, but it's a small broom, so we really don't need it any wider than it is. I'm going to do the same thing, go back through the broom, come back out on the top side of the broom on the other side, make another stitch. And as we did when we were braiding, repeat, repeat, repeat until we get all the way across the broom. Now that we've got almost across the broom, I'm going to pull this knife out. I don't need it anymore to hold the string, and it's just getting in my way. So now I've taken the broom spreader off. I don't need it to fan the broom out now because this one row of stitching is going to hold it. I'm going to cut the string off, and it's securely locked within the broom. It won't come out. And I'll cut off this tail where we started with the knot. Ball whisk broom. Whisk brooms like the one we made can easily be decorated. This is one I made a while back, and I decorated it for fall. They can be decorated for any season. They could be Christmas whisk brooms, Valentine's, really any season you want to decorate them with. This one has a string for hanging. It won't be used for sweeping the table. It's basically just for decoration. So they're really pretty when you do this. So if you would like to see more brooms made, different kinds of brooms, comment in the section below and let me know, and I'll do more broom making videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon.